Hi there, Lynn here. I just want to ask you a wee favour, which is if you're listening to this and you like it, or even if you don't like it, maybe even if you don't like it, would you leave a comment? Let us know what you think about what we're doing, because it's a little odd and we're speaking out there into the universe and we'd love to know what your thoughts were back. And also, if the notion takes you, how about sharing this with a friend? Letting them know what we're up to. Especially, you know what? Especially if you don't like it and you've fallen out with that friend. That's all the more reason to share this podcast with them. Anyway, we'll join you again soon. Thank you so much for listening.
On Monday, she takes a walk with Johnny. On Tuesday, she has a talk with Jim. On Wednesday, she likes to dance with Tommy.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of My Index to Sex. I'm Lynn Ferguson, a big vanilla Scottish woman living in the San Fernando Valley, which is periodically very hot, but rarely in a sexy way. And I'm joined by my pal, Sephe Haven, at one point America's #1 escort. In each episode, Sephe delves into the index box of all of her past clients, and I ask her all the questions everyone wants answered. I'm lying. That's what I should be doing. What I'll actually be doing is assigning the anonymous client on the card a name and clumsily trying to understand a world which is completely foreign to me. Anyway, glad you could join us.
On Thursday, she takes a chance with Tim.
Hello. All right, gorgeous one. Have you got a card for me?
I do. I have many cards. I pulled a bunch of cards. And, the reason I kept the cards is because I knew I wouldn't remember every single person, even after I had slept with them. It's just, there's, 25,000 people is a lot. I'm not saying it was 25,000. It might have been more, but so some of them I pull and I don't remember this person, so I started to read and think, well, what are we going to talk about within it? And then I noticed there are certain things that some cards have in common. For instance, one of them, you remember that song? It was from the 60s, I think. It don't come easy. You know that song?
Oh, doesn't it say, it don't come hard, it don't come easy, it? No, I don't remember it.
Oh, God. It's a 60s song. Anyway.
If you'd asked me a song like, it's not a popular 60s song. Is it a popular 60s song? Because if it was a popular 60s song, I would know. Maybe it just wasn't popular in Scotland.
Well, I might not have. I have no singing voice, so maybe I just didn't sing. But anyways, I just noticed on a lot of the cards, I write to myself, he don't come easy. He doesn't come easy.
Oh.
Which is a warning to me that this is going to be a bit of work and to prepare for it and also to prepare for the time around the fact that he doesn't come easy,
Oh, so what would be the perfect timing of coming? I mean,
okay,
because everybody has, there's that thing, is it where you go, okay, 1, 2, 3, and thanks very much, and good night, ladies and gentlemen, or is there a time? I mean, is there a sort of average time that it takes?
There is.
There is? What is it?
Not with women. With women, boy, we're tough. But but with men, yeah, I had this kind of 2-hour slot that was, it was 2 hours. We had to do things within the 2 hours, unless they wanted a longer period of time. But mostly it was 2 hours. So I had to it was like a story. You have to begin the story, set the client, everything has to grow. There's a climax, and then we're denouement, and then we're out the door. But it's beautiful within that time. So there was like 15 to a half an hour at the very beginning, depending on the person and how talkative we were together. And then after that, we moved to the bedroom. So there was an hour and a half for the bedroom. So there's an hour of playtime before the denouement, which is another half hour in storytelling terms. So, and the hour in between there's teasing, and there's slowly taking clothes off. And then there's getting to the bed, and then there's slowly more teasing. And then, there's a lot of teasing going on until we get to the point where there's a little more touching going on. And then there's the main event.
Yeah.
Which should take, at that point, because of the teasing, it should take between 5 and 15 minutes at most. And the only reason for that was if I'm seeing people, person after person, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 a day, even with time in between, you have to keep your coochie safe from wear and tear. And also your hair, I don't want my hair to get too messed up because I have work. And so there was a lot of...
I don't even, I'm a thing where I don't really like people touching me that much, right? I mean, I don't mind people touching me, but you know what I mean? Where I'd be like, after a time of doctor's appointments, for example, if you have to go and do lady doctor's appointments and everything, and they have to touch you and everything, by the end of the day, I'm like, anybody lay one finger on me and I will punch him in the face. Did you find that you would get like that? That you would be like, get away from all my bits and pieces, get everything? I mean, how do you deal with it when someone comes through the door and they're like, oh, a romantic, fairy-like person, make things work for me, and then you just go, get away. Did you ever feel like that?
I felt like that a lot, and so did a lot of the women that I worked with, that I knew. We all used to have this thing of, we would tell each other, well, I'm sending someone to you. He's a bit of an octopus, meaning, and he didn't even have to be, hands, but any man that, we were escorts, so we were trying to keep clean and we get touched all the time. And just because a man is maybe good in bed at a different time doesn't mean that in that moment you want him to be all over you, because there's too many different touches, too many. And it's like, this one's hard, this one's soft, this one's grabbing, this one. And also sometimes the way men grab at breasts is very strange. A lot of times they'll touch your breast and pull down. And you're like, if you're going to pull up. Just don't pull them down. I don't want to head downward. Everything to do with gravity.
Gravity's doing that for me. Thanks very much.
Most women would try to work it so that you were working. It's different than making love in real life. So while you were working, you tried to keep it on a way where you were pleasing and teasing and doing everything for and to them, so that they didn't do so many things to you, not because they weren't maybe be wonderful in bed one day, but just because you had to keep,
keep clean.
Keep clean. And
with a good quality sofa, right? You don't want too many people sitting on it all the time. You're like, there's a good quality sofa, cheap sofa over there you can sit on if you like. This is my good top quality sofa. You got to be clean here. You got to be gentle. This is top quality upholstery. Don't mess up with it. Do you know what I mean? It's not like a subway chair. Yeah,
that's right.
So tell me about the hard card. Sorry, because I get very interrupty.
No. I get interrupted. Okay. So this is just, I don't want to say his name. Obviously, you're going to name him in a minute. I don't remember him that much, but I will read what I wrote.
What's his initial?
DC, as in Washington, DC.
DC have
but wait.
Oh.
But wait, I'll describe him a little and then you can...
And then I'll name him. That's a good idea, because I was looking for the character there. And DC, actually, it was sort of taking me to sweary words, right? To words that were maybe not, because I had the D would be dirty, right? And C would be C.
Yes.
And I was like, no, that's not the thing you want to be calling somebody. That's not the name for an episode.
Well, I would... what's on the card, and then you can name what you think.
Oh, okay. That's a good one.
So he was a lawyer.
Oh.
He married 20 years. He is, and I wrote this in exclamation points, he's a Scorpio. And the reason that was in exclamation points was usually I got everybody's astrology sign. I got their birthday because a long time ago, an Aries friend of mine did a astrology thing where we all had to find out every client's birthday and every girl's birthday. And she did a thing after 6 months that said the signs that use the business the most, the girls that, and the least. And it turned out that the least were Scorpios. There are very few Scorpio men that used the business, which is strange because there's 12 signs. So mathematically it should all even out, but it didn't. There were certain signs that used the business a lot more than others.
Oh, what's the sign that uses the most then?
Most was Leo men.
Oh.
And the second place was Cancer men.
Right.
And then when it came to the women, the most escorts were Leos and Cancers. It was kind of interesting, Yeah.
So what are you then? You're not a Leo or a Cancer, are you? What are you?
I was a minority. So in there. So it was just, yeah. So I wrote his birthday was October 28th. He's 46 years old and he's a Scorpio,
Oh,
which was it was like a rare Scorpio passing through.
but what is he, a lawyer? Is he a lawyer? Did you say?
Lawyer for securities. I wrote, and I wrote in all caps again, not compatible. And I then, yeah, that's really rare because as we were talking at another podcast of just this was a place of love and acceptance, so whoever came in, it was like an improv. They were exactly right. You just yes-anded the whole thing. Everybody was yes-and. So for me to write not compatible was pretty huge. And so then I'm looking further going, why did I say that? And I wrote, I'm his first quote unquote hooker, as he would think of this as. But he must have treated me like a street situation, or he must have come in not expecting the relationship or what I had set up. And I also wrote in caps. There's a lot of caps on this card. Look, no conversation. I tried pampering him, but he just wanted to come 2 times. He told me, and he managed one of his. He had a very hairy body, not sensual. Black, BLAH in all caps. I didn't like him and he needs a hooker. Which is kind of a license, I suppose I was, but I wasn't in a way. And it was a very big difference between a courtesan setting up a session of love and joy, a 2-hour bubble of that, and some guy like sticking his dick in a hooker,
Yeah. Maybe we call him Dodgy Codger. How about that? Dodgy Codger? Because there's something dodgy codgery about it, which is, because one of the things with it, right, that I've learned through talking with you, which is fascinating, is that a lot of the people that you have seen really kind of want company. It's about loneliness and attachment and wanting to be connected, and it is quite a lonely world. So I totally understand that. Whereas with this guy, I feel like his motivation is different. And that is to be superior, like I want a hooker, I want something. Do you think he didn't really like women? Or do you think he just didn't like a type of woman? Or did he, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. I think, I don't know if it was loneliness with people as much as it was, when we're in our world, we are seen by the people a certain way. And there's always a little part of us that wants to be seen slightly differently.
Oh.
And that has some fantasy, romantic fantasies, ways of which we think of ourselves, but it's not reflected back to us. So there's always this moment of like, I can get this from a different way. Or, and men also have a different kind of sexual drive than women. Not that we don't have huge sexual drives, we do, but it's different. And I think with this guy, I really think looking back, he just didn't know how to, I think he was surprised. The language around the business is 1 hour, 2 hours, do this act, do that act. And I wasn't doing that at all. I'm saying you get 2 hours with me, you're paying for the time, not what happens in the time. And I think in his mind, he just had one language of what he was thinking. I want a blowjob, or I want this or that, and I'm going to go to a hooker. And she's going to do it, and I'm going to pay her, and that's the transaction. So he was more transaction minded. And it's like somebody who only goes to McDonald's and doesn't go to a fine restaurant. You're like, why are they taking so long?
I feel quite sorry for him. I mean, he is a dodgy codger, but like, I just think about, there's a thing in life sometimes where people don't see other people as people. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like here in LA, right, where people can be really mean about Hispanic people, right? And it's like white people who only speak one language get mad at Hispanic people. And I'm like, they're bilingual. They are like so much smarter than you in 2 languages. Don't talk to them that way. That's like the meanest freaking thing ever. Am I being quite heavy in this episode? Do you feel maybe I'm being a little heavy? I think that I don't like Mr. Dodgy Codger. I think I don't. And I think because maybe it is fast foody. Maybe it is that he's being fast foody about it. Like, I want this, I want that, get it sorted and blah, blah, blah. When he did actually arrive, when he came to the magical place, I mean, did he come to the magical place twice? And
yeah, I guess. did because I wrote that, but I just didn't. There was absolutely no connection. And for me to
Yeah.
spend hours with somebody, the minute you spend 2 hours with somebody with no connection, naked in an intimate sexual way, it's more demeaning than anything, and it makes you feel like, yeah, I'm basically, he's treating like a hooker. So that's what I am right now. And I think that's why I wrote what I wrote about it, and why I tried to screen people really well to see if, I think I probably saw, let me look at the back of the card. Yeah. So I saw him at a time when I was first starting out as an independent. And
Right.
so I was trying to discern who to see and who not to see. Plus, I didn't have the choice to be picky at the time. I was just really, and I wasn't yet the number one escort, which really helped me, publicity wise, getting people wanting to see me more. So
Yeah.
I think I just saw him and really could see the difference then in what I was creating and in what he wanted to impose upon the meaning of me,
Well, I think also what it brings up is like for everybody, there are days when it's just a job, right? Like I had this, I do story work, right? I do obviously because I work with you, but I do story work and I work with people on their internal stories and what stories are telling themselves. And I worked with this guy. He'd come to see me. A friend had sent him to me, and I was working on a story. And the story that was going on in his life was that everybody had disappointed him. Like everybody had let him down. And I was like, oh, that's a really hard place to be, right? And he was like, yeah. And when I had said, it must be hard to be in this place where people, and you've had a lot of disappointments, I have, right? And so then I billed him for the session, and the way that it was set up, he was billed for 2 sessions, the session that he'd done and the one that was coming up. And he got on to the admin and said, I am disgusted at this. I am very disappointed in this stuff, right?
Oh
like,
my God.
and I should say was at the end of the session, he had wanted to see me again the next day. And I said, I can't, you need to do it a week in a week because it's, the way that it works. And he was very disappointed at that. And I realized when he sent the email claiming that he was so disappointed with the process, that he just was disappointed in life, that he was the guy who was disappointed. And with Dodgy Codger is that thing where I wonder if there is anything in his life where he will connect, like maybe he is like 2 people where there'll be something where, maybe he really likes, I don't know, flowers or something. And then he's like, oh, a flower. And then he meets a person. He's like, bah, 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 give me that shit. Right. But or that he goes through his whole life and everything is transactional. I feel quite sorry for him. But I suppose ultimately in every job, there are days when you're like, yeah. In stand-up, we used to talk about that there's some gigs that you do and they're so much fun that kind of getting money for it at the end, you're like, I can't believe I've got money for that. That's the most amazing thing. And then there are other gigs where you're like, yeah, totally, I earned my money. And in that, you earned your money, right?
Totally.
Do you feel you learned from Dodgy Codger? What do you feel you learned from Dodgy Codger? Anything?
I don't know if I think, it certainly points up like we said, there's days that you love your job, there's days you don't. But I think it pointed up to me how far I came from that stereotype and how also that stereotype will always exist. The language around the business will always exist. And, and
Yeah.
people will think of it as a hooker, no matter what,
Yeah.
And it's, yeah, I think it was disappointing to me that in all the things that I did in those 2 hours, I couldn't have softened him or changed him. Or like you said, your guy still said, I'm disappointed.
It's weird. I do feel sorry for him because I'm like, man, the life experience of just everything being a transaction. Because that's why I ask how often did he visit the magical place? Because I'm wondering, because some people are angry until they reach the magical place. So I'm told. And then they're fine. So I'm wondering if he reached the magical place and then was happier, but no,
Well,
he just was still.
Good question. I think that first my observation, sure, my observation was for men. I started when I was very young in this business, so I observed men a lot and loved them and wanted to be loved by them. So But I noticed that men, I'm sure every woman knows this, a lot of times their goal is to come through the whole sex thing. Their goal is magic place. And to slow them down and to show them that the journey is really nice, it was kind of a goal of mine, because it got better that way and got better for them. And they could realize their whole being was much more sensual and fun and playful. And, and so when you get people like Dodgy, what'd you call him?
Dodgy Codger, Mr. Dodgy Codger.
When you get him, I felt like it was frustrating to me that his whole goal was the magic place, and he reached it. And then there was yet another goal. So we needed to wait it out so he could recoup and get back in the game. And I thought, okay, first of all, I'm playing with you. I'm part of the team, and I just felt, there's some people that the whole is the goal and that's it. There's
though, you probably had the best situation in that sense, in that, because so Dodgy Codger, I'm guessing, has to have had a firm, and he's paid you for 2 hours, right? Admittedly, there's 2 hours of, touching bits of places and stuff that's going on in there in that area. But after 2 hours, it's like, good night, Vienna. You'll never have to see him again. Can you imagine how difficult it must be to go, like on a Tuesday morning where you're like, oh, fuck, I've got to go to work. And then you've got a whole day of Dodgy Codger, right? Do this, do that. But you know what? There is that thing about karma. I feel in this episode that what's coming out for Dodgy Codger is karma here. In the, we work in our life to be so special and so magical and so important. And like what he's doing is, I'm very important. I don't know how important I am. Get this done. You're a hooker. Get my stuff done. I want twice. And the epitaph for Dodgy Codger is that he's not a very exciting card in a podcast about guys who pay for sex. And I think that somewhere there's a bit in that where I go, if you'd known there was going to be a podcast about you one day, maybe you might have been a bit more interesting, Mr. Codger.
You would have worked at it.
Of mine, 'cause she's the sweetheart of 6 other guys.
Well, that's all from us for this episode. I just want to ask you a wee favour, which is, would you leave a comment? Let us know what you think about what we're doing, because it's a little odd and we're speaking out there into the universe, and we'd love to know what your thoughts were back. And also, how about sharing this with a friend? Letting them know what we're up to. Especially, you know what? Especially if you don't like it and you've fallen out with that friend. That's all the more reason to share this podcast with them. Anyway, we'll join you again soon. I've been Lynn Ferguson, talking to Sephe Haven. Join us again next time for another episode of My Index to Sex.
Of mine, 'cause she's the sweetheart of 6 other guys.
You have been listening to My Index to Sex, produced by Ferdal LLC. The music was performed by Chesney Hawkes, and you can learn more about Sephe Haven at sepphehaven.com. Go to mitspodcast.com to check out the show notes for more details, including how to stay in touch, give feedback, and ask questions. All the best.
Sunday's my only time with that bozo of mine, 'cause she's the sweetheart of 6 other guys.